Hear ye, the court's in session. The court's in session. Now, here comes the judge.
That can only mean one thing. It means the judge, senior judicial analyst and host of Freedom Watch on Fox Business. That's on every night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Judge Andrew Napolitano, always giving opinions that are not necessarily the ones you hear anyplace else.
Well, you could say that again. Alan, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, when bin Laden is killed, when he is assassinated, and the entire country is hooting and hollering, and you've got almost everybody in the Western world saying this is the greatest thing and what a wonderful thing, and you come along, how much thought do you give to, I mean, obviously all your positions are well thought out, but what was the process for you before you came forward with the opinion you're about to express?
It was relatively easy because in my professional work, I've studied the law as a law student. I've explained the law as a law professor. I've practiced the law as a litigator. And I've written the law as a judge, so
that's a pretty good resume.
I'm pretty steep in this stuff, and I understand international law as well as federal law. And plain and simple, the president can't just choose somebody and decide to kill them unless that person poses an imminent threat to the life, liberty, or property of someone the president is charged with protecting, and that wouldn't be anybody in Pakistan, unless that person is a soldier on the battlefield and we're in a lawful war with the government for whom that soldier works, or unless a judge has ordered the execution of that person. And as horrific as bin Laden is, he's not in any of those categories. Someone could argue, well, look, he killed 3,000 people. He's the greatest mass murderer in history. Put aside the greatest this, the greatest that. I'm not talking about his evil. I'm talking about the law. The president invaded another country, invaded the sovereign territory of another country in order to do this. He violated 4 treaties when he did that, and the actual killing violated 3 federal statutes. He took an oath to uphold the Constitution, the statutes, and the treaties, whether he agrees with them or not.
Is the president a murderer?
The president has authorized extrajudicial killing. Murder usually requires hatred of the object murdered. Now, without getting too Clinton-esque, it depends on what the meaning of the word is,
yeah.
The president instructed people lawfully obliged to obey his orders to perpetrate a killing for which there was no lawful authority.
That sounds like a lot of that's a lot of legal talk, but
he killed somebody he didn't have the authority to kill. That's why it's called extrajudicial killing.
So the word murder would not be used.
Well, some people would use the word murder. The Europeans would use the word murder. Do you know that every Western European country, every Western country, except the United States and Israel, condemn extrajudicial killings, even though it's illegal under Israeli law and under American law?
You know, the answer to you would be, from those who vehemently disagree, we're in a war. This guy killed thousands of Americans. This guy was responsible for X number of terrorist acts. We're in a war. This is an act of war.
If you call a tail a leg, how many legs does a horse have? Most people would say 5. The answer is 4. Calling a tail a leg doesn't make the tail a leg. Calling this thing a war doesn't make it a war unless the Congress declares war. Here's how the president could have killed bin Laden. He could have declared war on Pakistan and have invaded Pakistan for the purpose of arresting bin Laden. There's no lawful basis for killing him.
But even then, you can't target one individual in a war, can you?
No, you cannot target one individual in a war. The only thing you can target in a war is the government of the country. So you could say, hand over bin Laden. No. Okay, we're going to take over the country until you hand over bin Laden. That's like, using a bazooka to go after a fly. Not that I would compare bin Laden to a fly, but compared to taking out the government of a country. Look, if the president can kill whoever he wants, he brings us back to George III, the king against whom we fought a revolution, because he thought he could kill whoever he wanted in the name of safety, in the name of justice.
Is the world safer with bin Laden gone?
Probably, yes.
And is it not the president's job to make the world safer and do whatever it is within his power to ensure the safety of the United States and the safety of the world? Could he not use that argument that in the interests of public safety, he then committed this act?
That's the argument that every tyrant uses. I've done this to keep you safe.
Obama is a tyrant?
The president is a tyrant when he kills without judicial and legal authority. And the president makes tyrannical decisions when he invades another country and kills a human being lawfully there.
So you believe the president's a tyrant?
Yes. Yes, I do. Absolutely. There's no question about it. Presidents love war, and they'll use the tools of war in a tyrannical way. Did we declare war on Libya? No. Then what are we doing there? Did we declare war on Pakistan? No. What are we doing there? Did we declare war on Yemen? No. What are we doing there? Only a tyrant would do this.
We
treat the military as his personal.
Bush was a tyrant. He didn't declare war on Afghanistan.
Precisely.
Didn't declare war on Iraq.
Precisely.
Although he got congressional authority to go in and do that.
You know, the congressional authority is political cover, Alan, but it's not legal or constitutional cover. The Constitution requires a declaration of war, and he did not get that. And the reason for the declaration of war is twofold. It liberates the president because it gives him the tools of war. Military tribunals are lawful in times of war for those who are alleged to have violated the tools of war. But it also gives you an end game, because once the purpose of the war has been achieved, then you have to stop. Now that we've gotten bin Laden, should we leave Afghanistan? Because that was the stated purpose for going in 10 years ago.
Well, we shouldn't have been there in the first place, in my view, but he wasn't even in Afghanistan.
Correct. I share your view.
And neither is al-Qaeda, for the most part.
Correct. According to the president's own National Security Advisor, General Jones, there were fewer than 100 al-Qaeda in Afghanistan.
Let's say you're right. Okay, I know you believe you're right. You're the expert. You're right. So you're right, but you represent a view that is held maybe by, 5%, 3%? Who knows?
Very few.
And so
for that reason,
go ahead. For that reason,
the president can't be impeached because there has to be popular support.
I was going to ask you, what redress then could there be for what you believe is a misuse of the law?
Theoretically, the impeachment mechanism is a redress, but as a practical matter, since impeachment is partially in the world of the law and partially in the world of politics, without vast public support for it, it will never happen. So without the possibility of success, why would one even try it? But this president thinks he can start a war against whomever he wants, thinks he can kill whoever he wants. And look at the differing explanations of Libya. We're there for humanitarian purposes. Well, no, we're there to get rid of Gaddafi. Well, NATO's in charge. Oh, wait a minute, but we're NATO. We really tell NATO what to do. So we're still there. We're still
same thing with Iraq. We're there for the oil. We're there to make a democracy. We're there for security.
You are exactly right. The arguments are the same. This, as far as foreign policy is concerned, this is the third term of George W. Bush. And from the point of view of a person who believes in human liberty, it's just as repellent.
So let's say we believe in liberty. We do believe in liberty. We claim we believe in liberty. You and I have similar views about liberty. Maybe the rest of the world doesn't. What do we do? Other than, opening the window and screaming, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, when it comes to war, the two parties both believe in it. Now, Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul are exceptions. I think if either of them had been in the White House, and obviously I agree with Ron Paul on just about everything, I agree with Congressman Kucinich on governmental power and the Constitution and civil liberties. But if either of them were in the White House, you'd see a president who would eschew war. But aside from people taking those defined positions, a strong libertarian, a strong progressive, both parties love war. Think of who historians say are the greatest presidents. They were all wartime presidents, whether the war was fruitful or not.
And I voted for Barack Obama, believing he was an anti-war president. 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan and going into Libya. And now this issue of, which I'm very conflicted about Osama bin Ladin.
May I ask you a question? Where is the left on what happened?
The left has gone away. There was no left. The left went away after the Vietnam War. The left thinks they won everything. There was a left when I was a college kid, and there was a Vietnam War raging.
Well,
and
there was even a left in Bush's administration. Yeah. They weren't that potent. Remember, Howard Dean used to say, I'm from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. But where's the left in the past 48 hours? I know this is your show, and I shouldn't be asking questions.
No, please, it's a great question.
Curious about where MoveOn.org and those folks with whom you and I agree on some things, where are they on this assassination of bin Laden?
They are afraid to stand up to a Democratic president, a perceived liberal president, and in some cases probably a black president.
Well, do you know that Charlie Rangel, when he criticized, and he's on my show tomorrow, but when he harshly criticized President Obama in Libya, and I said, and why do you guys let him get away with it? This is as much the fault of the Congress as it is the president. He goes, because we like him. We like the fact that he's president, and we agree with him on just about everything else. And so for that, you let the Constitution be subverted, and you create a precedent which a future president could rely upon?
Don't you think to many Democrats, Obama is the best chance to hold on to power that they've had in quite some time?
And to bring into the force of public policy the domestic policy that he brought into force in his first 2 years and is trying to do so now.
Look, help me about this, and then we'll part company because I know your time is very limited. But I'm conflicted about this. Much as I understand what it meant to get bin Laden, what it means spiritually, politically, what it means symbolically, what it might even mean literally, I'm uncomfortable with assassination, and I'm uncomfortable specifically with people hooting and hollering in the streets like it's some kind of a sporting event, as if we just won the Super Bowl. This is not the dignity with which this should be addressed.
He committed a horrific crime, and we have demonized him, over-demonized him, almost to the point of all of our efforts in the past 10 years have been dedicated to getting him. But if you talk to savvy intelligence people, they will say they would much prefer to chat with him for a couple of months than to have him sleeping with the fishes. They weren't sent there to capture him. They were sent there to kill him.
He's more valuable alive than dead.
Of course he's more valuable
they could have gotten him
alive than dead. But if he's alive, then Eric Holder and Janet Napolitano, no relationship, have those awful problems about what to do with him and where to try him, and as a lawyer, always going to be with him. When Saddam Hussein spent 3 months in a jail cell with an FBI agent, they learned so much because of the interaction between Hussein and the FBI agent.
One other item. We're talking to Judge Andrew Napolitano. There's a big debate going on now. The Bushies are now running as fast as they can to any television camera within reach. Waterboarding, torture, this is what did it. It was the Bush policies. We should be bragging about the fact that we waterboarded somebody or tortured somebody to get information, even though Donald Rumsfeld says this is not what got the information.
And Jack Brennan says this is not what got the information. So you have the president's chief counterterrorism official and President Bush's first Secretary of Defense.
I got into a fight with O'Reilly tonight on his show because he goes, well, Peter King says it's true. I said, well, Donald Rumsfeld said, well, unless Rumsfeld comes here and tells me.
There are certain absolutes in society that Bill, God love him, may reject. And one of them is that torture is wrong. It is always wrong, and under all circumstances, and even under their so-called ticking time bomb, this is not one of them.
And if torture got bin Laden, it wasn't worth getting him. Would you agree?
Agreed, because torture diminishes the country that does it. Why should we become monsters like they are by wantonly invading and killing? That's what we accuse them of doing.
Judge, thank you very much. Judge Andrew Napolitano, and the show is called Freedom Watch. I almost said the book. You got so many of them.
I'm always promoting something.
But Freedom Watch is on Fox Business Channel, 8 o'clock Monday through Friday. That's 8 o'clock Eastern. We're always happy to have the judge with us. And we're going to get the other side of the story in just a moment with law professor Alan Dershowitz coming up in just a moment. And then back to your calls at 877-367-2526.